What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and I think that welcome back is probably the wrong choice of words for this video because I usually talk fantasy football on this channel. So those of you guys out there that are watching this video, 99% of you are probably not subscribed to the channel, and that's completely fine. I just wanted to hop on here, the platform that I've built, and post a video about something I'm passionate about. I love college basketball. I've always been that guy that, I'm sure you knew this guy in high school that would, wander around the locker room, shark people down, trying to, peddle a $5 March Madness bracket tournament. That's always been me. In fact, that's still me. Last night I hit up 20 of my high school college buddies trying to get a bracket going. I've always been that guy. Now, I know a lot of you guys are out there. You play in your office pool. You play in pools with your buddies from high school, whatever. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be out there wanting to make a little bit of money. Now, you might be saying, why would I listen to Ron Stewart, the fantasy football analyst, about college basketball? And you might be right on a micro level, right? A guy, CBS Analyst X can tell you the 5 starters on Chattanooga, their head coach, his history, what coaching tree he's under. I can't give you that. But I love college basketball. I've seen a majority of the big games. And on this channel, despite looking, I know I do look like a football barbarian that talks about, the gridiron and all that kind of stuff, but we're a little bit more nerdy here. We're data driven. I build prospect models. We talk about, fancy stats like expected points added. And I would even say that if I don't have a black belt, I would say I have a brown belt in the Google Sheets. So we can create some really cool things from a macro perspective and kind of look at win percentages, what the field thinks, and kind of leverage the field and get, squeeze some EV out of the people in your bracket pool to make as much money as possible. Now, I want to let you guys know I've won a few pools in the past. I also now, have a good amount of, skin in the game. I'm in a $100 pool. I'm in a couple of like $10 and $20 ones. So I'm going to be submitting all kinds of brackets. And I figured the whole reason why I even made this is, yes, this is my passion, but also I'm going to do a bunch of research for this. So why not make it into a video? So with that being said, I want to give a shout out to Rick Run Good. He made a really good video on this last year. When I was first starting to play around with how to leverage the field and kind of look at projections and stuff. And he kind of takes this approach that's more of a, DFS, DraftKings bro, FanDuel bro, where they kind of look at ownership percentages and kind of projections of the field. And that kind of gave me some inspiration for this video. So shout out to him. So we're going to hit the intro. We're going to dive into some strategy, and I'm going to fill out a bracket. So without further ado, let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm pretty cool. My nitty babe.
All right, fellas, let me get us into the split screen. And before we even dive into overall strategy, let's actually look at the individual scoring of a bracket pool. Now, for this video's sake, I'm going to assume you have an ounce of class and are running it on the men's tournament challenge. And this is kind of how it's breaking down. You have round 1. If you guess a correct game or a correct pick, you get 10 points. Round 2, you get 20 points per correct pick. Sweet 16, you get 40 points. Elite 8, you get 80 points. Final 4, 160 points per correct pick. And then the winner, if you pick the correct winner, you get 320. As you can see, the points are pretty backloaded, right? So it goes 10, 20, 40, 80, 160, and it really puts the emphasis on guessing those late games correctly. So it kind of, from the beginning here, you're rewarded for thinking more macro than you are micro, right? I think a lot of people overanalyze, how many 5 versus 12 seeds are going to have, or 12 seeds upset 5 seeds, 11 seeds upset 6 seeds, and all that stuff. The thing is, most likely in your pool, if you can remember back to last year, the year before that, the winner isn't the guy who looks the best after, Thursday, Friday. It's the guy who had, 2 Final Four teams and he picked the correct winner. That's really all it comes down to in, I would say, a majority, right? And with that being said, I think a lot of you guys would say then, is the correct strategy just to go, your Final Four all 1 seeds and just have like Gonzaga win it all? And it's not, because the problem is that everybody has a pretty chalky bracket. Most of the field is going to have, if you look at like your uncle's bracket, or if you look at, like Dick Vitale's bracket or whatever, or even like the CBS Analyst X, like they're going to have like probably 2 1 seeds, maybe a third 1 seed and like a 2 seed. No one likes to get 2 out over their skis, so everyone's kind of doing that. And on the surface, that is somewhat optimal, right? Because like I said, you get 2 of those right, you get the championship winner, boom, you won the whole thing. But you can get even, a bigger advantage on that by picking by knowing which of those favorites to pick, right? Because you want to pick the guys that are the heavy favorites that no one else is picking, so when they win, you have the most to gain, if that makes sense, right? If there's an 80% chance that this team makes it to the championship, but only 20% of the people in your pool pick them to make it that far, then you having them go that far gives you massive leverage to win your pool. And the reason that we can even kind of conceptualize that or put that into practice because ESPN gives us that information in real time, which is insane. I don't know why they do it. I don't know how they do it. I guess I know how they do it. It's pretty easy. But you go to who picked whom, right? You click here, who picked whom, and it shows you what the public is thinking, right? So Kansas, 97% of the people think that Kansas wins round 1. Gonzaga has 90.6% of people picking them to win in the round of 32. If you just want to follow one team, you have Duke. 95.6% of people are picking them to advance out of round 1. Then 78.4% of people are picking them to advance out of round 2, all the way to the championship where they are picked to win 6.8% of the time. And this is interesting, right? Because in a perfect world, every single one of these teams would be picked at their percentage chance to win it all. So in a perfect world, Duke should have a 6.8% chance to win the tournament. Now, how we verify that is there's plenty of good, resources that have, projections and I guess you could call them like algorithms, models, whatever, that predict the outcomes of the tournament. Now, one that is very huge, popular, you have KenPom, which shows the NCAA tournament probabilities. You get here miscellany, you go down to blog, and it's the first thing there. And like I said, in a perfect world, Duke would have a 6.8% chance to win the tournament. But if we go here, we go down to Duke, we see that they have a 3.3% chance to win it all. So that's minus EV. If the field is picking them at double the rate that they even have a chance to win it all, then that's minus EV to begin with. Because if you pick a champion that has a 3.3% chance to make it all the way, you want a big payoff. But because it's Duke and it's a blue blood and everybody's picking Duke, or not everybody's picking Duke, but more than the amount of people that should be picking Duke are picking Duke because they're popular. So let's say in the event, let's say there's a normal team that has a 3.3% chance to win it all. Ideally, the rest, only 3.3% of your pool has them to win it all. But if Duke was to win and make it all the way, you have double the amount of people at the top that you need to defend against, right? Because if everyone picks the same winner, then you're like tied for first place, or not tied, but maybe you get second place because there was another guy that had a better bracket than you. So you want to kind of eliminate that and leverage the field by picking ones that instead of if Duke has a 6.8% chance to win it all, but they're only but let's say Duke has a 3.3% chance to win it all, only 1% of the field picks them to win it all, then that's a decent plus EV play. Now, how do we kind of look at that on a macro scale? Every single team is, we get nerdy and we throw it all in an Excel sheet. And that's what I did here in this Excel sheet, or I guess Google Sheet. And I'll put the link down in the description so you guys can look at it. Now, I also want to point out 538 has a good one too, but there's a little bit of a difference, right? So if Duke has a 3.3% chance, okay, they have a 3% chance here, but they have Kansas at a 10% chance to win it all. I know on KenPom they have Kansas at 6.6%. So there's a little bit of discrepancy, and I like looking at both just to kind of get, two opinions on the bracket on these matchups, because you don't want to hold somebody like KenPom to like, the Holy Bible, these projections are these projections. So I do like to have both. So I have KPOM here, and I have ESPN here in the other tab. Now I'm gonna make this available in the description. I'll put it down there for you guys to use for your own bracket pools. All I ask, I would ask to subscribe, but you guys aren't, unless if you like fantasy football. But if not, a like will do. Would really help us out in the algorithm. And now let's get into kind of some spreadsheet talk on how to use this in practice. And I think that what people fall into the trap of is they go down the first round and they kind of go from there, and they kind of get really overanalyzed on, like I said, like the 5 versus 12s, the 6 versus 11s, and they don't approach it the correct way. Remember, most of the points are made in these ranges. So we kind of I think that the best way to go about it is you kind of want to work your way back from the national championship game to the Final Four to the Elite Eight, and kind of, pick your spots. And with doing that, you could filter by leverage, right? You could filter by leverage on KenPom, and boom, it spits out, your best champions. Now, here's the issue with that. it's that you have Houston at the top, right? Ken Pom loves Houston. They have them at a 5% chance to win it all. Only 1% of the field, right? ESPN is the field. Ken Pom is the projection. Now, that gives you a leverage opportunity of 4%, which is really good, right? You're getting a 4%, kind of on the house, some like pretty much it's like an odds boost line to take them as a champion. The problem is that they only have a 5% chance to win it all. So that's a really long odds, right? Because at the end of the day, you can kind of get sucked into this trap with using leverage of maximizing your leverage when you really just want to you still want to win the whole thing, right? So I think the better idea is to sort it by their actual win percentage and kind of go from there. And I will say at the top that I think Gonzaga last year was an obvious fade. Everybody was all in on them, but I think there is some fatigue with Gonzaga where they disappointed for a few years now. Or last year was still a disappointment. But I mean, last year they had Suggs, they had Timmy, they had Kispert. This year they have Chet Holmgren, still have Timmy. Like they have. I think last year was like a 27.5% chance to win. They have as good of a team by the numbers. Now, I also want to say that I made the spreadsheet this morning. It had it at a 30.5% chance. The public, 30.5% of brackets had Gonzaga making it all the way. If you look at it now, or no, this isn't what I wanted. If you look at it now, Gonzaga's at 28.5%. So that's only like a percent of leverage there, or a percent of negative leverage on something that's 27.5% already. So that's really not that bad. I think that this year, I don't hate taking Gonzaga. I didn't like them last year, but this year, if you want to take them, it's really not bad. I think that especially in casual leagues, people are just going to be, done with Gonzaga, where, they kind of get in their heads like they're never going to win it all. They lost against St. Mary's. A lot of people are pretty much done with Gonzaga, and I especially think the more casual people aren't going to want Gonzaga to win it all. I think that their ESPN projections might even be boosted, or ESPN percentage, or like the public's pick. It might just be juiced because people do the autofill and they're the 1 seed. So it might just keep going down, right? The ESPN percentage. And that would give us a spot where if they're going to give us even odds on a 27.5% favorite, when you look at the rest of the field, man, it drops off quick. Last year we had two teams that had over a 10% chance to win it all. You had Illinois and you had Baylor, who took it home. This year there really isn't a clear second tier, right? You can say it's Arizona, but the leverage is bad. Everyone's on Arizona. I would say Arizona is my biggest clear fade at minus 3.2% in leverage. They're bad. I think Gonzaga's not a bad pick, and I don't hate Kansas. I don't hate Kentucky. It does come down to if you want to kind of take a late stab, right? So 5% or less, and you just want to sort by leverage. At that point, if you're in a bigger pool, I don't mind taking a swing on Houston, Texas Tech, UCLA, Iowa, all really fun teams. Those are all really fun teams to take, but I mean, if you're in a pool with like 15 people, I don't know that you want to take like a 5% chance to win it all. I don't think the payoff is really there. So like I said, I don't hate taking Gonzaga. I will also say, if we want to look at the 538 side of things, they like Kansas and Kentucky a little bit more than Ken Pom, where they have Kansas at actually 10% chance to win it, Kentucky at 8.2% or 8.27%. So I would say that Kansas and Kentucky are very good bets to win it all when you look at the leverage. Now, when I was writing the outline for this, it was annoying switching back and forth. So what I actually ended up doing was I made an average for both. I averaged out, right? So I took, whatever the percentage was from Ken Pom and 538, average them together, and that'll also be on this Google sheet. So I think it's a better look, because I do think that you run into a trap with Ken Pom where they don't take into account as much competition, where Houston has a 5% chance to win it all. On 538, I want to say that they have a 3% chance to win it all. That's a big difference. So I average them together, and I think it gives you a little bit more of an accurate look. If you want to go one or the other, then that's completely up to you. But from here on out, we're going to be using this sheet right here. And I think once you put it in this perspective, there's some clear plays. I don't think Gonzaga is a terrible play. Again, I think that this 30.5% is a little bit inflated. I think Kansas is a fine play, at pretty much even odds. I think Kentucky's a good play here. Auburn's a decent. I don't love Auburn. I will say that much. I don't love their guards this year. They have, Jabari Smith is great. They have Kessler, who's great, but the guards haven't been great. I want to say I heard a stat where the three guards in the SEC tournament combined for maybe 3 for 30 on shooting. Now that's not the exact stat, but something really bad. But again, I do think that if you're playing in a pool of 20 or less people, that Kansas, Kentucky aren't bad. And you could go Gonzaga, but if you go Gonzaga, you definitely want to, get a little bit ballsier with your Final Fours and your Elite Eights and stuff like that. So, to kind of get yourself a little bit more uniqueness, right? Because if you pick Gonzaga, you need to outperform, if 27%, assuming that 30% of your entire pool has Gonzaga, right? So 30% of, let's say 20 is, I want to say, geez, man. I want to say that's 6 people. So you need to have the best bracket of 6, whereas if it's Kansas, right, and there's 20 people, maybe there's 1 or 2 people that pick Kansas. I think that's how that math shakes out. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. So with that being said, I think, like I said, Gonzaga, Kansas, Kentucky are good. I think that the clear fades are Arizona for me, right, where they have an 8% chance or 8.35% chance to win. People are picking them at 12.1% of the time for one of the worst EVs. And I think that Duke as well, 6.8% chance to win it all. Both models don't really like them at 3.14% chance. Let the Duke and the blue blood, the people that like Duke, bet on Duke, right? Or also wherever you're at, right? If you're in, I'm from Jersey, so people are going to really pick Rutgers and Seton Hall. If you're in Texas, people are going to pick Texas, Texas Tech, Baylor. So be a little bit wary of that kind of stuff. But again, I think that your best bets at a title are Gonzaga, Kansas, Kentucky. I would say Kansas and Kentucky are in tier 1. I would say tier 2 is Gonzaga if you want to be a little bit more, chalkier, but make sure to have, make sure to be a little bit weird in the Final Four. And then also I do like, as some dart throws where if you want to go a little bit lower than the top 4, like in that 5% range, I think Auburn, Houston, UCLA, Iowa, Texas Tech are all really fun picks. Now, going from there, you kind of want to, go across the board where you look at Final Four, you look at Elite Eight, and you kind of start to filter out some things where you can kind of see, again, you don't want to just go by leverage, because if you go by leverage and you say, Houston's a fun Final Four team, but they only have an 8.61% chance to make it there. So you really don't want to stretch yourself too thin with those odds just for the leverage. Where, Houston's not bad because they are still like a top 10 team in that. But even like an LSU at 2.11%, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin there. And I also want to show that if we're looking, if we're looking at Elite Eight, or hold on, let's actually take a little bit of a look here at some Sweet 16 teams. If we're looking at, Houston, UCLA, Iowa, LSU, I think anything above a 10% chance to make it all the way is probably something you need. It's not something you need, but probably something you're going to want to put in your bracket. Now, with that being said, I think something that's on the flip side, a question that I had when I was filling this out is, you also have to decide when you're going to jump off the train with some of these guys, right? Where you have let's say Arizona, right? So we know that they're a bad pick, but at what point do we, hop off the train with Arizona? Because they're minus 3.75 leverage, or minus 3.75% leverage here, then 15.7, 16.18, and they peak in the Sweet 16. So technically, they have about a 50-50 shot to advance past the Sweet 16. The field has them at a 69.5% chance. So it's a benefit to you to short that at the Sweet 16. Now, I'm not saying you must have them lose in the Sweet 16, but if you're going to have a big team like Arizona, fall out, you want to take note of where the leverage is the lowest, right? So I would say Sweet 16 is the best, then Elite Eight, Final Four. Anywhere between the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight, or in the Final Four, is where you want them to lose. If you're going to have them lose, I probably wouldn't do it in the championship. You probably wouldn't want to have it in round 2. So you can just kind of, use that, where if you want a big team to lose, you can kind of find the optimal spot for them to get bounced out of the round. And then with that, you can kind of, right, with Baylor, you see it too, where minus 8% in round 2, where if you get them to the Sweet 16, you have them lose there, you're actually getting more leverage on the field in that scenario. So From there, you can also kind of look at, the other interesting thing with this is if you look at a team like UCLA, where UCLA is tricky because they're a team where they have minus leverage first, and then they peak in Sweet 16 and then they trail off. So you're kind of UCLA is a team where if you want to bounce them, you need to bounce them in round 32. I wouldn't bounce them in the Sweet 16. I wouldn't bounce them in the Elite Eight. If they get to the Sweet 16 in your bracket, you should probably have them going one more round. If you have them winning the first round, you should have them going to the Sweet 16. You're getting too juicy of odds to, bounce them out any further than that. So you can kind of mess around with this and kind of see, where teams have the optimal spot, right? So if Arkansas makes it out of the round of 32, they're no longer that bad. They're like pretty much the field is right on par with where they should be. So with that being said, I think we did enough of spreadsheet talk. Let me take a little bit of a sip of my water. Let's fill out a bracket real quick. Now, I don't know how deep into the weeds I'm going to go here. We're 20 minutes in. I will also say we're going to do this from scratch, where we're going to kind of switch back and forth between our Excel sheet and just kind of go from there. Now, I want to do, we're going to do it like I know I said from the top that we'll kind of pick our champion and go from there. But I'm going to build this out from we're going to go with each region. And I'm going to go, first of all, let's look at Gonzaga. And again, Gonzaga, the reason why I was saying that Gonzaga is really not that bad of a team to pick to win at all. Again, you hate picking like the number one overall seed because everyone in your pool is going to have them. The thing is that there's really not a sweet spot to kind of jump off the train with them. You have the Sweet 16 at minus 5.69%, but even a team like Kansas that has, pretty much even EV at the end here, they're at minus 18% leverage in the Sweet 16. So if you want to, there's a good chance to jump off the train with Kansas. There's really not a great spot to have Gonzaga lose. That's really kind of the issue with it. I think I don't mind the idea if you want to have Gonzaga lose to just have them, like last year, if you had Baylor, like you could have just had Baylor winning it, and that was unique enough where if you just had a chalk Gonzaga against them, you probably won your bracket because you got both the guys in the championship. So I don't mind if you are dead set on, a Kansas or a Kentucky or whatever, you can have Gonzaga go as far as you want them to. Like you're not really incentivized to have them get bounced any earlier. And I'll also say that this is I think this is also a really weak section of the bracket. I think Duke's a weak 2 seed. Also, the field is going to be really heavy on Duke, so you want to short that stock anyways. I mean, Texas Tech is decent. Arkansas is decent, but I don't think either of those teams are strong enough to beat Gonzaga. I don't think, like, if there was going to be a 3 seed or something that was strong enough to beat Gonzaga, I think Iowa would give some problems. I think Auburn is pretty strong. Kentucky would have been really strong for them to play against. UCLA, Purdue, like this would have been more of a nightmare bracket. But in this one, I really don't see Gonzaga taking them out. I'll put Gonzaga this far at first. And now this is where things kind of get interesting, where we can then use the leverage for our first round upsets. This is probably one of the more fun things to use because you can kind of just almost blindly obey the leverage. Where if you look at this, you go all the way down, you want to take these, right? Where San Francisco, this isn't even in our bracket, but just to kind of talk about what the game theory is behind the San Francisco is if 27.8% of the field is picking them to advance, but the projections have them advancing 51% of the time, you are pretty much betting on a coin flip at 75-25 odds, if that makes sense. So you're betting on a coin flip, you're betting on heads, and if heads hits, instead of getting double your money, you're getting like 1.5 times your money. So at that point, it's in your best interest to just take the other side, right? If it's 50-50 bet and 75% of the field wants to pick one side, then it's just in your best interest to take the other side. So that's kind of the play here with San Francisco, especially with San Francisco when it's 51% chance to win. It's a little bit dicier when you get to like a Colgate, which only has like a 19.82%, so 20% chance. Davidson does like a 50-50. That's not terrible. But these ones in the 30% range, they're not must takes, but if it's close to 50-50 and you can get any leverage on it, I think that's probably the play. So when we look at a team like Boise State versus Memphis, we have Boise State, I believe. So they're a 7% leverage team. And I think it's not as simple as that, but I'm going to take Boise State anyways because I will say with this team, Boise State, I want to say they have a bunch of seniors. I think they played really. I think they were like a top 25 KenPom team, and I don't hate Memphis. I just don't really love Penny Hardaway. They have freshmen. They just don't really look like a team that are going to make it too far in the tournament. And if we're going to get leverage on Boise State, then I'll take that all day. And a team like UConn is also interesting because, or not really interesting, but this is a team that's in the polar opposite, where New Mexico State's 2% leverage, and then you have UConn that has minus 2% leverage, right? There's not a ton to gain there. So if you're going to pick a 5-12 seed upset, UConn's not the spot to do it. And Arkansas is where this one gets weird, because when you look at it, Vermont actually has the fourth most leverage. So if you're going to pick a 4 seed to get upset, it should be Arkansas. It just gets really tough because 31% chance to win still isn't great. Now, I'm going to take Vermont personally, just because I think it makes sense to kind of muck it up in a bracket like this with Gonzaga. When you know Gonzaga, Gonzaga is so dominant that they're probably going to make it the entire way. So I don't mind just kind of sending Gonzaga wherever you want them and, getting a little bit dirty earlier on. And I think you can kind of look at the same thing with Rutgers. Like this is where it can kind of be a little bit of a trap. You don't want to just take the best leverage plays every time, but it's definitely hard not to. Now, I think we're also going to we'll take Rutgers Notre Dame is tough, but I think I will say, so Rutgers Notre Dame is here, right? You're getting 11% leverage on them. What I wasn't doing right was I think I want to have a little bit more zoomed out. So instead of actually just going matchup by matchup, I kind of want to look at the field in its totality, right? So actually, I think Sweet 16 is really what you want. I'd say Sweet 16 is really what you want to look at, right? Where you want to look at what are the best Sweet 16 teams you can have. And so Texas Tech is one of them on this side of the bracket. I don't think Arkansas is a very good play. I'm trying to see where Arkansas is at. Oh, so this is Arkansas. They're a decent play. So Arkansas actually isn't a bad Sweet 16 team if you want to get them out of the first 2 rounds, but you're not getting a whole lot of juice to advance them any farther than that. So I do think, or actually, let's do Sweet 16 by leverage, where we have Texas Tech as one of the teams that we definitely want in the Sweet 16. So let's actually do that right now. Let's put Texas Tech there. I believe this is the Sweet 16 right here. Okay. So we'll have Tech in the Sweet 16. We'll have Gonzaga there. What else becomes interesting here? Texas, San Diego State. So who else is in this bracket? So between Michigan, Duke, what is Michigan State like? Michigan State interesting. I imagine that Davidson's probably pretty interesting to make a Sweet 16 run. I guess the problem really is that it's really not a good chance to happen. Yeah, you don't want to advance Duke. I guess Michigan State is like kind of interesting. Yeah, Michigan State just seems like a very meh pick to make it there. I will say I guess you don't really have to force a Duke loss in the round of 32. Let me look at Duke real quick. Like this is what we want to look at. When's the optimal time for Duke to get bounced? So optimal time for Duke to get bounced is either the round of 32 or the Sweet 16. Now the problem is that I don't feel too great about Michigan State or Davidson. Man, I will say if Tom Izzo and Coach K go at it, I kind of do like Izzo there. But let me check. Not Texas Tech. I think Davidson versus Michigan State in the first round. I think that Davidson is the leverage play. Yeah, so you're getting 12.51% leverage from Davidson. Davidson's apparently a really good team this year. So that is a little bit scary. So I think that you probably, man, and Davidson's literally a coin flip to win as well. So we're actually going to take Davidson. Everyone's going to be in on Michigan State. We'll take Duke. I hate Duke, but Duke's not losing against Davidson. So we'll have Duke in our Sweet 16. I hate to have that, but we're not going to advance. I think Davidson getting to the Sweet 16 is a little bit too far on our odds. I don't think that you need to go. Like ideally, you don't want to dip under. Like you don't need to go to the 4.65% percent range on the Sweet 16. It's not like Davidson isn't really worth it in my eyes, I guess. So with that being said, we advance Gonzaga, Alabama, Rutgers. I think that Rutgers is the optimal play here as well, or Rutgers Notre Dame. If we look at the leverage, we go to Rutgers Notre Dame. I don't even like Rutgers or Notre Dame, but I think Rutgers would give some matchup problems to Alabama. I will say I'm going to take Alabama. I really don't. I don't hate Alabama. We're definitely going to have to take Texas Tech in the Sweet 16. I think it makes too much sense with the leverage here. It's the first team that even gets positive leverage on the field, so we'll do that. We'll go Alabama, but we'll have them lose to Texas Tech. I think that is absolutely fine. And then we need to kind of figure out UConn versus Vermont, which I think that's a no-brainer. So one of them needs to make the Sweet 16, which is not great. So UConn in the Sweet 16, that's like fine. That's decent leverage. I will say who's the most likely team to get? Oh, Arkansas. The thing is that Arkansas in the Sweet 16, or not that Arkansas in the Sweet 16 is that bad, but it's Arkansas. Arkansas is a really rough stretch early, is what I remember we were looking at. Yeah, so Arkansas minus 13. So like the thing is that you're not rewarded by getting Arkansas to the Sweet 16. You want to have them bounce in the first round or the second round. Who does Arkansas play in the second round? It would be UConn anyways. All right, so we'll have UConn win, and they'll go 1 versus 5, whatever. Should we? All right, fine. We'll kind of complete this section. So this will bring us to the Elite Eight. Yeah, so that's our Sweet 16. What does our Elite Eight think in terms of EV between UConn, Gonzaga, Texas Tech, and Duke? I imagine that Texas Tech is here at the top, right? Yeah, so Texas Tech is pretty high up there. So I think we probably want Texas Tech to beat Duke. Yeah, so Texas Tech actually has a better percent chance to make it to the Elite Eight than Duke does, which is pretty interesting. They're at 13.36%. You have Duke at 12.3%. So we'll have them advance. I'm also looking around now. So we'll have them advance, and I think that it just, in terms of just like it being chalk, we have Gonzaga, then we have Texas Tech, right? There's no one else in this bracket that's higher than that. So we'll do that. We'll do Gonzaga, and we'll do Texas Tech. And we'll kind of just leave it at that. That's fine. All right, so let's go with the South. Let's go East first. So we'll go East, and let me scan the teams. I know that the Google Sheet likes Kentucky. I know that it likes UCLA. We'll probably have UCLA pretty far. I think that the move is to probably start from Sweet 16 and go from there in terms of high leverage plays, and kind of see what you're working with. So I think I definitely want UCLA to make a run, and that's fine because I think they got a really easy draw too. I think Akron's not a tough matchup. I know St. Mary's beat Gonzaga, but I'm really not scared of St. Mary's, Wyoming, Indiana. I'm really not scared of any of those guys. I love Tiger Campbell. I love Juzang. I love what's his name, Jaime Jaquez or whatever. They're a great squad. So we'll have UCLA in there. We have Iowa, LSU, Texas Tech. Texas is an interesting Sweet 16 team. Texas has to beat Purdue though? Do they not like Purdue? I don't mind Purdue as a team. Okay, so Purdue is like whatever. Let's actually sort by this again. So let's look at what is Baylor to get? So Baylor it seems like you want to get them to the Sweet 16 and then have them lose in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. So that's fine. Let's get Baylor to the Sweet 16. To UCLA, you either want them to win against UCLA or you want them to either lose against UCLA or lose here to whoever comes out of these regions. Now I would say, here's the thing: I don't even like Texas. I was gonna say like Texas makes some sense. I think Purdue. It seems like if you want Purdue to lose, you should do in the second round to Texas. I'm really not too interested in doing that. So we have UCLA, who actually has a better percent chance to make it to the Sweet 16 than Purdue does, which is interesting. Tennessee, Villanova. It doesn't seem like there's really any other powerhouses here that would make a run to the Sweet 16. I think that we probably just get Purdue there, right? Purdue is up there, Kentucky. So it's actually interesting with Kentucky is that you would want them, if you're not going to have Kentucky make it far, you'd want them to lose in the second round or the third round. Who are they playing? I'm not having them lose against Murray State or San Francisco. There's no way. If Kentucky versus Purdue is tough, I'll say that. But Kentucky versus Purdue is definitely a tough matchup. But we'll look at that. We'll look at that in a second. But I think we definitely want Purdue. I like Purdue. They have a good team. What does Virginia Tech look like to make it there? Are they Are they plus EV? No, you're not getting any leverage on Virginia Tech. There's no reason to have them advance there. Yale, Murray State, San Francisco, I'm good on all of that. I actually think here's the thing with San Francisco. They're actually they're an auto lock in the round of 64. They're not an auto lock to win, but you need to play them. The thing is, I'm not going to have them. They're fun, but I'm not going to have them lose to Kentucky. There's no way. Again, that'd be a smart pick. That'd be kind of the savvy pick there, but I'm chilling on that. Now I'm going to kind of leave that there for a second. We're just going to kind of go to the first round and go by that. Again, Wyoming, Indiana, you're getting some pretty good leverage there. I think I don't love St. Mary's, so I'll go with whoever wins, Wyoming or Indiana. And then we have Texas versus, and I imagine that Texas versus whoever this is that they're playing probably is pretty even, if I was to guess. Virginia Tech. Yeah, Virginia Tech's actually getting picked too much. So you're actually getting leverage on Texas, which is pretty wild at 54.84%. So we'll take Texas, and that's not that chalky. Take UCLA to advance. UNC versus Marquette. Who do we think? Oh, Marquette, you're actually getting a lot of leverage on for a 43% chance to win. You take that all day. All right. So now that we have our, round of 32 locked in, I definitely want Purdue to advance. We have everything that we need here. I don't love a 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top, but it's really not the end of the world. So this is now the Elite Eight here. All right. So let's take a little look-see here. And you have Gonzaga with the highest chance. You have Baylor that's up there with you're getting minus 15.1% leverage on a team. Like the field has them advancing there 34.6% of the time. If Baylor only has a 19.5% chance to make it to the Elite Eight, and UCLA has a 16.7% chance, you're getting 6.8% leverage. You simply just have to take UCLA there. And then we have Purdue versus Kentucky. Kentucky's at 27.98%. Pretty much even odds on both. I do think, man, you get the problem is that if you have Kentucky not making it to the Elite Eight, or not, man, you probably want them to lose a little bit earlier than that. The problem is I don't see them losing against San Francisco. Wait, hold on. Am I being an idiot right now? This is the Sweet 16. So actually, it does make sense to, if you're not going to have Kentucky be your winner, it makes sense to have them lose early. And I think now I kind of have to make the tough decision of who I even want to be. I kind of need to figure out who I want to be the champion based on that. I think let's not go Gonzaga. If we're just going based off of the two models, you have Kentucky, you have Kansas, you have Auburn. I really think that it needs to be, if not Gonzaga, it needs to be Kentucky and Kansas. I think, man, let me check. Let me see this one more time. Let's actually refresh this real quick. The who's whom, or who picked whom. Gonzaga at 28.4% of the field. Kansas is now up to 8.4%. Were they already at that? Kansas is, okay, so up like 0.1. You're now pretty much getting even leverage on Gonzaga. So I'm actually going to, man, I don't mind picking Gonzaga. I think, yeah, let's do Gonzaga. I don't mind Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga's not a terrible play this year because I think a lot of casual people won't pick them, even though they have the same odds to win it all as they did last year. So let's pick Gonzaga, or let's not do it yet, but in the back of our head, we're going to have Gonzaga there. So if we get weird with like a UCLA in the Final Four, it's completely fine. So we're going to go UCLA versus Purdue there. And I think that makes a lot of sense. So we're not going to pick a winner yet. So right now our Elite Eight, our Elite Eight is Gonzaga, Texas Tech, UCLA, Purdue. I think that's solid. All right. So now let's work our way up to the South region. I'm going to put my face in the other side of here, and we'll run it back from the top real quick. So let's just take in the teams that you have. I know UAB's got that fun kid, Jelly. Illinois is a really tough team to gauge. I like Curbelo. I like the big guy, Kofi Coburn. Arizona's interesting. I watched Arizona versus UCLA, the Pac-12 championship game. They looked really, really good. Don't love Michigan. I do really like Tennessee. Tennessee was really, they won the SEC tournament. They probably should have been a 2 seed. I think Villanova is a little bit slept on. Nobody's really talking about them. So this is an interesting setup on the South region. Let's take a little look-see at some Sweet 16 potential here. Let's sort by leverage. Why not? So looking here, Houston's the clear one that you want in your Sweet 16. Now the problem I have with Houston, who do they play in the first round? They play UAB. I guess UAB UAB isn't even like worth picking an upset in the first round. So we'll take Houston. I think Houston, just based on leverage, you probably need them in your Sweet 16. Or you don't need them there, but I think it makes the most sense. So let's actually go by leverage. So Houston, as you can see, their leverage peaks in the Sweet 16, then kind of tails off. So I don't hate, they're a team where I know Ken Pom really likes them, and I respect that, but they are also playing in the A10, so they're playing against, like Wichita States and Memphis and, teams like that, and they're probably solid. I like them better last year. They did just make the Final Four, but I liked them better last year with Quentin Grimes, but I haven't been keeping up with Houston basketball, obviously. So they are interesting. I'll put them in the Sweet 16 for now. Then we have Arizona. What does Arizona look like? I imagine that Arizona is just probably pretty even. Is there any teams that are just like super obvious in the Sweet 16? You have UCLA, Iowa, LSU, San Diego State. LSU's not here. Iowa's not here. All right, so let's actually just sort by percentage and see what comes up. So right off the bat, so Arizona, Arizona, it seems like you want to advance them to the Sweet 16 and then have them lose. It seems like that is probably the move. So we'll advance them there. Maybe we'll have them lose against Houston. I still don't love that. Arizona's a really strong team, but I mean, from a leverage standpoint, it doesn't make sense to have them lose. The thing is that you can actually string them along as far as the Final Four and then have them lose, because you're still getting pretty good leverage anywhere in those 4 rounds. So we're not locked into anything. Then we'll look at Arizona. Some of these plus EV plays, you have Houston, LSU a little bit farther down. Nothing really else catches my eye. What do they think about Illinois and Tennessee? That's really my question here. So you have Illinois. So you have Tennessee, which you're a little bit incentivized to have them lose in the second round. Who would they play in the second round? So definitely out of the first round. There's no reason to have them lose against Longwood. Not really any reason for that. Let me actually. Damn it! I hate that when I put this screen up, it brings us down. Or you get what I'm saying. What if I put it up here? No. All right. Whatever. So we have Tennessee, and then we have Illinois, who you're also incentivized to have bumped in the second round. But you're also incentivized to have them win in the Sweet 16. So that's actually not bad. Who does Illinois play in the first round and play in the second round? So Illinois playing against Chattanooga. They're saying that Chattanooga is not a bad pick in the first round. Let me see. So Chattanooga is up there. Man, they're winning 24%, 25% of the time. I think, man, these Big Ten teams really don't do great in the tournament. I'll say that much. Man, oh man. Are any of like the interesting, like, what about Colorado State? What are we saying about Colorado State? Nothing. This is where we're not getting a ton of info on. Oh, geez, you hate to see that. All right, so we'll go Illinois. We'll go. What do they think about Chattanooga versus Michigan? Let's actually. I don't really know what we're gonna do that far down the line yet. What do we got? Michigan versus. Oh, so Michigan's actually you're getting plus money on Michigan. More people have Colorado State. Really? I think that if you want to pick a 11 seed upset, I think Michigan actually makes a lot of sense there. I do like Michigan. Hunter Dickinson, Juwan Howard's not bad. What do they think about? So obviously we're gonna have Nova there. What do they think about Ohio State versus Loyola? Because Ohio State's an interesting team with EJ Liddell. I don't know how do they still have like suing from last year. So you have Ohio State who you're getting minus 3.95% on. Loyola, I'm not really, so Loyola, you get some leverage to have them advance out of the round of 32. What about Ohio State? You also get the same amount of leverage to have them advance out of the second round. And who do they play? Nova? I don't really see either of them beating Nova. So for that reason, we'll just have Ohio State win and then lose to Nova. We'll have that happen. That's fine. Then we have Michigan, Tennessee. Let me see real quick. So we really want to decide who we're gonna have in the Elite Eight. I feel like we're really chalky here, which I don't like. So let's see a little leverage here in the Elite Eight. There's really nothing clear from this bracket. It seems like Nova. It seems like at this point, Nova, if you don't like them winning against Ohio State and you don't like them losing against Ohio State or Loyola Chicago, that you should probably just have them keep going. Who would they play in the Sweet 16? So it'd be the winner of Michigan, Tennessee. Man, do you get anything out for getting Michigan there? You get some. So Michigan in the Sweet 16 really is like not terrible. What about Tennessee? So again, Tennessee's a team where if you want them to bounce, you want to bounce them in the second round. So it would make sense to get Michigan to the Sweet 16. It's still not bad to have them lose in the Sweet 16 to Nova. Again, where does Nova come in? Man, it's hard to. Let's actually go alphabetical order for a second here. We can go to Nova. Where Nova, if we want them to lose, it'd be in the second round, which would be against Ohio State. But if they make it to the Sweet 16, it's not really worth them getting bumps. I mean, I guess I don't mind, like, I don't know. In the Sweet 16, I definitely want Houston, UCLA, Iowa, LSU in my Sweet 16, Texas Tech in my Sweet 16. Then I guess I don't really have anything else that's super fringy or down here besides. Man, I guess I will say, no, I'm chilling on Alabama. Actually, you know what? I don't mind the Michigan play. The thing is, man, Michigan hasn't even been good this year at all. Like, they were almost a bubble team. Like, Tennessee is really hot right now. Yeah, I'm good on that. We'll go with Tennessee. So that actually makes me curious where we want Tennessee to get bounced. If we would want them to get bounced to be the second round, I actually like Tennessee. Man, Tennessee gets tough. I think that we probably want, again, so Nova has some EV to make it to the Elite Eight. So let's actually just get Nova to the Elite Eight over Tennessee. Now again, this is pretty chalky. And it definitely makes me a little bit sick to my stomach. We'll make some adjustments if need be. Maybe we do Houston over Arizona, and that'll kind of lessen up the chalk, right? Because if we go leverage plays, like Houston is by far. I mean, who is most likely to make it to the Elite Eight? You have Arizona, but you really want to short Arizona. You'd want Kansas to lose, and you'd want Baylor to lose. I mean, that's 3 1 seeds losing in the Elite Eight, so that doesn't feel great. I'll say that much. That doesn't feel great. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if I advance Arizona one more. Who do they lose to? Nova? Man, I don't even like Houston, but I think it makes sense to pick Houston. There's just too much leverage on Houston not to have them beating Arizona here. All right, so we'll have them beat Arizona. We'll have Houston in the Elite Eight. Fine. Even though I like that Arizona team, dude. They looked good in the Pac-12 tournament. So we'll leave that here. We'll have Nova, Houston, Gonzaga, Tech, UCLA, Purdue. Only one seed in the Elite Eight doesn't feel great either, but that's fine. Again, we'll do the Midwest, and then we'll kind of tinker with some things. It'll all come together. So Kansas for sure makes it out. Let's take a look. Sweet 16. Kind of what we want to get in there. So we definitely want Iowa there. Let's just get Iowa there for now. We'll put Iowa in the Sweet 16. I actually really like. I think if you go Gonzaga as your winner, right, and you want to get unique in your Final Four, I think Iowa's a really fun pick. I love Iowa. Keegan Murray's played great. His brother's played great. McCafferty's played great. After losing Wieskamp and Garza, they've been great. They won the Big Ten. They're super hot right now. And it's pretty interesting that they're super hot right now, and the field still isn't picking them at only 18.9%. Now, I will say, it is slightly cheesy to just take everybody over 10% in leverage in the Sweet 16, but I think that it's a play that makes sense. So we're going to take LSU. We'll take LSU in the Sweet 16. We'll take Iowa in the Sweet 16. Do we have any more in this range that would make sense? San Diego State in this one? San Diego State is in this one, but I don't want to have Kansas lose that early. I think that's fine for now. Let's look at the first round leverage real quick. Now I think that this is another one of those big ones. Yeah. So South Dakota State over Providence. Providence is I think leads the nation in being lucky on KenPom. They're not a team that I believe in at all. So I'm completely fine with going South Dakota. I think that they're a great team. I will also say. Let's look at Providence real quick. Does their leverage increase at any point? No. If you have Providence lose, it needs to be in the first or second round. Just fine. You don't need to pick that first round upset, but we're going to just for the sake of doing it. Now, Wisconsin, they're a minus EV play against Colgate, and I think that people are going to be tempted to pick Colgate there, but I think we're actually going to go Wisconsin and then have them lose to LSU. I think that makes a lot of sense, where you're maximizing the leverage on Wisconsin at minus 26.77%, where they would actually have LSU favored in that game, right? Or no, they're not favored, but LSU's 37% chance to advance from the round of 32, Wisconsin's a 41% chance. So you're getting a good chunk of leverage there. So we'll run with that. Let's look at so we'll definitely Auburn. Let's look at USC versus Miami. I don't know really what they're going to think about that. So Miami, you're getting some leverage on, or you're getting like 5% of leverage, but I prefer USC by a lot. I like USC this year. I think they played well. Then let's check Creighton versus San Diego State. I think that this one's probably going to be San Diego State, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so San Diego State, they actually have them as a favorite in this game, and the field has them as about a coin flip. So I'm down to go San Diego State. Why not? Whatever. And I think that makes some sense. Now, if we look at, so our remaining teams are Kansas, Auburn. So when's the most optimal spot for Kansas and Auburn to get bumped is pretty much what I'm looking at now. So there's really not even a good spot to pick Auburn to get bounced. It seems like you kind of get rewarded for having Auburn make a run, right? If you want to have them make a run to the Elite Eight or Final Four, that's really not a terrible play. They're not glaring. Auburn's not at any point like a glaring like this team needs to lose early. So I think that we're going to have Auburn for sure beat LSU and make it there. Now, the rest of this gets a little bit shaky. I think LSU beats Wisconsin. Auburn beats LSU pretty handedly. Now, Kansas is kind of the tough part. I want to figure out at what point do we jump off the train with Kansas, and if not, if you don't jump off the train with Kansas, Sweet 16 or Elite 8, so if you don't have them lose to Iowa or Auburn, then it's probably in your best interest just to have them go all the way. And that's where it kind of gets tough with me with Kansas. Again, I think we're going to go Gonzaga for this bracket, so I don't mind having Kansas lose early. So let's have Kansas advance, right? I think that they beat San Diego State, but I think Iowa wins there. And then we have Iowa, Auburn. Our Elite Eight is Iowa, Auburn, UCLA, Purdue, Houston, Villanova, Gonzaga, Texas Tech. Again, Houston is really nice to have there. Arizona's a team that I actually really like, but so does the public. That's really the problem. You're not incentivized to have, Arizona, the problem is that you would have them, so Arizona could actually meet in the championship game against Gonzaga, and that really wouldn't be too bad of a pick. Now, let's actually check if we would have Arizona, if we had Arizona beat Houston, we'd probably want them to beat Villanova as well, which would advance them to, the Final Four. So let's actually look at the leverage of Final Four teams real quick and kind of figure out who makes the most sense in the Final Four. I think with us having with us having Gonzaga as our national champion, I'll do that right now. Let's lock in Gonzaga as our national champion. I think that makes sense. We want to get a little bit weird. And it seems like the best places to get weird are UCLA, as Final Four teams are UCLA, Iowa, and Houston. The problem is you can't just go across the board and put all three of them in there. That's not how that works. So let's actually just sort by percent chance to win, or to make it to the Final Four, or advance out of the. Is this advance out of the Final Four? Yes. So let's actually go. We want to go here. We want to see advancing to the Final Four. So Iowa's actually pretty far up there. So I think we'll have Iowa beat Kansas. Did we have Baylor lose yet? I think we do have Baylor losing. Yeah, we have Baylor losing to UCLA. So we'll go Iowa over Auburn, which I don't think is even that crazy. So we'll have Iowa in our Final Four. We'll have Gonzaga that far. I will say navigating this part is a little bit tricky, because I think Houston and UCLA are really good Final Four team picks. Again, you don't really need to do it though. So pretty much what this says is that of the 3 1 seeds, right, Arizona, Baylor, Kansas, those are the worst ones to have in the Final Four. Ideally, you probably only want 2 of these teams in the Final Four. So I will say, here's the thing, what is Nova in this spot? So Nova's actually a really good team to make the Final Four. So I think what we're actually going to do is we'll go Iowa. I still don't know what we're going to do between UCLA and Purdue. We'll go Iowa. Man, Houston's such a good leverage play, but I really don't trust it. So Houston's 25% chance to make the Elite Eight. So just a 25% chance just to beat Arizona, which is pretty crazy. What does 538 think about Houston? Advancing to the Elite Eight. So this is, again, they're not as high as Ken Pom on him, or on them. They have Houston still pretty high up. If we look here, UCLA is a given, Purdue, Iowa. So they actually like Purdue as like a Final Four team as well, even though they do like UCLA. Do they like Nova? Wow, they like Michigan a lot, actually. So if we go to Villanova real quick, hold on. That puts us here. So they like Nova to make the Elite Eight and advance to Final Four as well. And let me just make sure, what do they think about Arizona? I know that they hate Arizona, but I kind of just want to know what the optimal spot to get out on them is. It's even optimal to get out of them in the Final Four as well. I'm gonna get out on Arizona in the Final Four. I think they make it here. I think they beat Nova. I think that Arizona beats Nova, and then who would they play on the other side? Iowa? Ooh. So that would put Arizona in our championship. Just kind of an issue. I think ideally out of this side of the bracket, you'd want, man, if you got Arizona there. So I do like Arizona. Let me look at Nova, Tennessee one more time. Actually, no. I think that that's fine. I think that this is fine. I don't love like Iowa in the champion. So this is to advance out of the Final Four. Let's actually look at that real quick. To advance out of the Final Four, Kentucky's a good spot. So Iowa is actually, this is to advance out of the Final Four and make the champion, or make the final round, which is actually interesting. That Kansas is a good play here. Kentucky's a good play. Iowa's a good play. Purdue is a good play. I think ideally you run Gonzaga. Man, so the problem is that I think that I think you need Iowa in the Final Four if you have Gonzaga. So if we want to go Iowa in the Final Four against Gonzaga, Arizona's a tough spot. I think Nova probably is the answer on Arizona's side. I think Nova's probably the answer. They're a 10% chance to advance, whereas Arizona's a 16% chance to make the championship game, just to get there. So that is really tough. Now, I will say, I think on the flip side, a nice way to do this would be you have Kansas make it, you have Arizona make it. From maybe, I mean, you could go like ultra chalk and have like Gonzaga make it, but you probably would want a different team from Gonzaga's bracket making it, just so you're unique enough. But I think for now, I think Nova doing that is good. Purdue, UCLA, I think we'll have Purdue there. So let's just make sure our leverage in the Final Four is still pretty good. All right, so we have Iowa. Or no, so we care more about this. Or actually just our percent chance to make it. So we have Gonzaga there. Then we go all the way down to Iowa, Nova. Wow, so they actually have UCLA as a better chance to make the Final Four than they do Purdue, which is interesting. Iowa, Auburn. Man, so I think Iowa makes the most sense. Man, so they're giving UCLA a better chance of making it out of there than Purdue, which is interesting. Huh. That is very interesting that UCLA and Purdue really, like, they have UCLA as a better chance to make it that far. Of making it to the Final Four. I mean, it's interesting. I like Nova. I like Iowa. I like Gonzaga. I really do think that if you go as high as 57%, you probably have to skip out on the rest of the, you definitely have to skip out on Kansas and Arizona in your Final Four. Who's the other 1 seed? Is it Baylor? Yeah, if you're going to have Gonzaga in your Final Four, you probably can't have another 1 seed in there. But I think Kentucky would be fine. But again, Kentucky would be fine, but you're at an advantage to have them eliminated in the Sweet 16. Could have Auburn, but Auburn, if you go Auburn, then you can't go Iowa, and Iowa's really not that far down of a gap. Then we have Nova. Then we could do UCLA or Purdue. I think that that's what it comes down to, is UCLA or Purdue. Which is very, very tough for me. Purdue did just lose to Iowa in the Big Ten Championship. UCLA lost to Arizona in the Pac-12. We'll go Purdue. I like Purdue. I like Ivy. I like their bigs. UCLA making back-to-back Final Fours would be tough. Would that be a rematch against Gonzaga? Man, I do like UCLA, man. Let's go UCLA. Let's do that. We'll do 1-4-2-5. I will say, though, I do think it makes sense to have Kentucky. Man. Again, you are at an advantage to have Kentucky lose in the Sweet 16. That is the tough part. I do have a little bit of pause. Maybe you could do one other 1 seed. I really don't mind Arizona. How much better of odds does Arizona have it than Nova? Almost double. The thing is, if you have Arizona there, you could have them losing in the Final Four, but if you have them losing in the Final Four, then you have Iowa in the championship. I mean, I don't hate Iowa versus Gonzaga in the championship, but it doesn't feel great. All right, Iowa, pretty far down here. Ideally, I mean, I guess they really don't have that much of a better chance than Nova of making it to the championship. I mean, if you have Gonzaga in the championship, you're ideally passing on Arizona. You're ideally passing on Kentucky. So this is me figuring out who I'd want them to meet there that far down the line. I mean, it is pretty wild. Nova's really not that much better of a favorite than Iowa. So I think Iowa, I don't hate... No, Kentucky can't be it because they're not on the other side of the bracket. I think Auburn does make some sense. So the thing is that if Auburn wins anywhere, they would have to beat Iowa here in the Elite Eight. I'm kind of cool with that. I'm kind of cool with Auburn because Auburn's at 12.8% chance to win out of the Final Four, and you're getting them at pretty plus decently plus plays at that point, right? Because even if you go by, if you sort by this, I think the play here is going to be to go. Yeah, Auburn's really not that much less of a plus EV play. I think that I like this idea. I say we go Iowa to the Elite Eight. We advance Auburn. We advance UCLA. We get Villanova versus Auburn. Again, I'm very tempted to put Arizona here though. To advance out of the Elite Eight, you have Arizona, which isn't great. Nova. Yeah, so let's do this. I think that this is solid. This is solid, I think. And then we got Gonzaga. And then to make it out of the Final Four, who is favored in that game? We would have Nova versus Auburn. I say we go Auburn. Let's go Auburn in the championship versus Gonzaga. And I think that that's not bad. I think that's not bad at all. Now, I'm going to tweak the hell out of this. This isn't going to be my final bracket or anything, but I think that this is just a good way to show kind of what the thought process is of using leverage and kind of, taking a more macro approach to this whole thing. Now, tiebreaker score, we'll go, we'll say it's a freaking track meet between Auburn and Gonzaga. We'll go Gonzaga 87-79. Boom. And do I got to enter that, bro? I haven't picked all the matchups, is what they're saying, actually. What did I not pick? Oh, Seton Hall versus TCU. That's the one game we didn't pick. All right, hold on. Let's take a look at that real quick. Seton Hall versus TCU. Say Seton. If I had a team that I repped, it'd be Seton Hall. So if we're gonna take Seton Hall or TCU, we'll take Seton Hall. Bang. All right. And that is the bracket. All right. So we have Gonzaga there. I think that's a decent one. Again, I'm gonna make like 5 or 6 different brackets. That's just one that I thought was pretty fun. Now, that's gonna do it for us today. If you're out there, you've stayed. I didn't really expect this to be an hour-long video. I think I did a lot of rambling. But that's just kind of what my thought process was behind that. I'll timestamp it so you can just kind of look at the strategy part. Me filling out the brackets a little bit more of a bonus. Now, with that being said, if you're new here, again, don't have to subscribe. Leave a like if you'd like to. For those guys out there that are, been hoping for fantasy football content, that is coming very, very soon. As early as this week, I think we're going to do a stream, and we'll do 1 or 2 football videos where we're talking about maybe free agency, buys and sells candidates, and then next week I plan to, post 4, 5, 6 videos in that range. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper song, singer, suspended, subpoena from Mr. Meaner.